Hey, it is Adrienne Lawrence, and welcome into another edition of TYT's The Conversation. This time, I'm bringing you the CEO of Sentinel Security Solutions. He's also a former DHS advisor and former Secret Service Supervisory Special Agent, Mr. Chuck Marino. Thanks for joining us, Chuck.
Hi, Adrienne. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so it's under unfortunate circumstances as we're here to talk about something that was really leading headlines last week. Former Michigan State Dr. Larry Nassar, we had the Senate hearings and we really learned that unfortunately it seems that the FBI dropped the ball here when it came to ensuring the safety for the young athletes that had been abused. And so from your vantage point, I guess, how did this resonate with you?
Yeah, well, listen, in my experience as a federal investigator, there's two types of investigations that always kind of raised your level of preparedness, if you will, where you knew you had to step it up. And those were cases of terrorism and cases involving children. Unfortunately, I think there's plenty of blame to go around here in terms of US Gymnastics and the United States Olympic Committee, all leading up to the FBI. So should this have been noticed sooner within USA Olympics? And obviously we know what the FBI did wrong based on the DOJ Inspector General report. So, the director of the FBI never wants to have to go in front of the American people and apologize for the FBI's shortcomings, especially as it relates to crimes against children. And unfortunately, people were held accountable in the FBI rather late. That does not solve what went wrong here.
No, it doesn't solve it at all. And I know we got the apology from the FBI director, which is all good and well. But I think the reality of the things we're focused on is the fact that the FBI had been made aware of the allegations against Nassar being a molester since at least 2015, yet nothing was done. So given your position, you have extensive experience, supervisory special agent, former Secret Service and whatnot. I guess, how do we prevent these kind of things from happening moving forward?
Well, everything that you saw that went wrong within the FBI, to include falsifying reports, false statements, not filing reports in the beginning at all, really questioning the overall integrity, if you will, of the agency based on the actions of a few, which originated in the FBI's Indianapolis field office. And that's where this all started. One thing with crimes involving children is they are often multi-jurisdictional by nature, especially if you add now the context of this investigation involving multiple people participating in an Olympic sport that live throughout the country. And then you have a doctor that performed his functions in Michigan. So by its very nature, multi-jurisdictional. Indianapolis field office should have started a case, should have documented everything, and also should have had the political sensitivity to know that they should have paid extra attention to this case and made the notifications to the additional FBI field office as quickly as possible to get this investigation going.
Absolutely, and it seems like it's something that not only sensitive because these are children we're talking about here and sex crimes, but also because these are children who represent the United States at the highest level. They are high-profile children. They are faces that are highly recognizable, as well as their performance and what they are doing to advance our nation and our profile. Here, it just really seemed that the sensitivity and the particular nature of all of the circumstances that it was really dropped. And so I guess maybe I'm just trying to fish for more and figuring out, is this a lack of manpower or just a complete disregard for individuals who are victims of sex crimes?
Well, I think in this example, you saw an absolute disregard for the accusations that were brought forth by the CEO of US Gymnastics. So, you get these concerns that are brought forth. You hope that you're speaking to people that are going to, assign some level of credibility to it initially and continue an investigation to find out what happened here. One thing that troubles me, Adrienne, is when we talk about, this being a high profile case just based on who was involved, it always makes me think, so what's happening with regular people? that are making these accusations and having these concerns. If this type of a case is falling through the cracks, what's happening to the general public in these types of situations? Is it also happening to them? So we hope that we don't have a systemic problem regarding these cases at the federal, state, and local levels. But it's something that should be explored. And I'm all for having participated in the vast sensitivities that accompany these cases, giving these investigators, these agents, these local police officers as much training as possible. There's never enough in the area of child exploitation in terms of training that you can give to officers and investigators in terms of how to treat the victims and how to investigate these cases.
And something also that kind of really hit me and resonated with me is the fact that we have Larry Nassar, and he's attached to Michigan State, Richard Strauss, Ohio State, Jerry Sandusky, Penn State, George Tyndall at USC, who was my gynecologist and doctor at USC. And so I was among their victim profiles. It just seems that these individuals who are abusing victims are doing so under the guise of these educational institutions where young people are supposed to be safe and it's supposed to be about higher learning and protection. Yet all of these individuals have been able to enjoy this sense of acting with impunity because there is a state at the end of their employer's name or university at the end of their employer's name. And so I guess, what do you see about potentially the government needing to get more involved in these universities and in terms of ensuring that their doctors and the people that are working under their umbrellas are not sex offenders?
No, you're right. And that's why I brought up earlier, there is some blame to go around here in terms of the organization themselves, right? The US Olympic Committee and US Gymnastics. How long did this go on right underneath their noses? And so, they've got to be aggressive in monitoring, especially in sensitive positions like doctors, where athletes are very vulnerable, and they have to make sure that these people in these positions are performing in accordance with the ethics that you would expect of a doctor. And so there is tighter supervision required from these universities and organizations. They do have a duty of responsibility for their student athletes and their students in general to make sure that they are not being mistreated and abused. There is a responsibility here.
Yes, without question. And also the potential for the government to get involved. Just being a lawyer, I would say that having federal tuition aid and assistance means that the government can go in there and knock some heads around, to ensure that these young people and children and individuals who are students are not being exploited and sexually violated. And it's sad that it feels like this should be like the lowest threshold, yet it seems to be so high and so difficult for institutions to actually take allegations seriously and to do something about individuals. But as you said, this is something that it should never have happened indeed. And so given your expertise in what you do, Chuck, I guess what would you say is the best way to go about this when it comes to future instances?
Well, you see the Department of Justice Inspector General made a lot of specific reform requests in terms of how the FBI investigates and interacts with minors and their adult supervisors in terms of how they document these cases, how they investigate it, how they communicate it back to headquarters, and how they engage with the victims themselves. So again, it's more of an overall awareness that organizations and the government, the US government, who bears responsibility for investigating these crimes, how they document and how they interact with these victims. And these cases require immediate follow-up. If they're receiving complaints of this nature, they have got to be followed up on immediately and pursued and determined from that point on where they go. But if somebody needs to be prosecuted, the case needs to be opened, presented to the United States Attorney's Office, and someone needs to be prosecuted if the evidence is there.
Absolutely, and I would still love to see a lot more of kind of accomplice prosecutions, just because there seems to be so many people along the pipeline who know about these things and say absolutely nothing, and then they go on to join Congress. But we won't get into that. But in terms of looking at the huge, larger, bigger picture, where do you think that USA Gymnastics can go from here?
I think you'll see a lot of reforms internally there. Obviously, those that belong to USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic Committee, they've lost a lot of credibility there. They've lost the confidence of athletes based on this case, that they're not going to be there to make sure that their well-being is taken care of. So they have a lot of internal things that they need to work on to really just gain back the confidence of their athletes and the country.
Yep. Without question. Thank you so much for joining us, Chuck. And can you tell people where they can find more information about you and the work you do as the CEO of Sentinel Security Solutions?
I appreciate that, Adrienne. They can visit our website at sentinel-security.us, and it'll tell them about everything that we do in the security world in terms of mitigating threat and risk.
Excellent. Thanks so much again for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you, Adrienne.
Take care.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.